guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hello, hi, I'm Jyotsna and I'm actually posting a video on this channel after a long time. What can I tell you? Things have been very busy and I am highly appreciative of those people who actually ping me and ask me if I'm okay and why am I not posting videos. It's just that life is super busy right now. It's going to be so in the coming few months as well because everyone's gone back to work and this channel was revived during COVID. But I will still keep coming here and posting like at least 2 videos per month. But this has been a long break, of course. I don't want to push myself to make videos continuously, but I keep doing it on Instagram, like I'm posting stories about what am I reading and things like that. So if you want to stay updated with my reading life, follow me on Instagram. I think that's the best place to do so. And that being said, this video is coming after a very long time. The BookTube prize was announced on 7th October. The winners were announced on 7th October. And this video is being posted in the end of October. The reason I really wanted to make this video, it's been like in the thought process for a long time. It's just that I didn't get time to sit and film it. But my aim with this particular video is to give you some amazing book recommendations because this year's BookTube Prize finals have been my favorite BookTube Prize finals like ever, because first thing I could predict the winners technically because my top three winners were my top three rankings were the winners, but I also read some really unique books and I wanted to discuss the same, and hence we are here. Let me get started with the books that I read. Okay, so there were 6 books in the section. It's of course on the screen somewhere, and all of these 6 books, what I had to do was rank them from 1 to 6, 1 being the one I like the most and 6 being the one that I like the least. All of these books had a unique theme to them. All of these books were very, I would say, palatable. It made me feel all sorts of feelings, and I absolutely cherish this particular list for the same. So basically at number 6 I have A Little Devil in America by Hanif Abdul Rakib, and this is a unique book. Okay, I'll explain why is it at number 6, but it basically has these multiple essays of artists from the Black community, from the African American community, and it talks about a lot of diabolical art forms like blackface as well. I absolutely loved the effort that went into writing these essays. I absolutely loved the way a lot of these artists were not a lot, actually few of them were relatable because I'm a 90s kid, and there was Whitney Houston in the list as well. But here is my main problem with the book, right? I think it would be enjoyed much better by someone who is from the community or who is aware of the culture of the community rather than an Indian sitting somewhere in the corner of the world. For me, it's the relatability factor that actually got this down to 6, but otherwise I do recommend this book. I do recommend this book no matter what. The book at number 5 for me is Elizabeth Kolbert's Under a White Sky. And this is actually a climate change book and environment-based book. And it was interesting because I could learn a lot about, the entire ecosystem that the US has created, and it actually had a lot of tidbits. It actually had a lot of knowledge. It basically talks about how human-made disasters created like a reversal when it comes to a good climate, and she explains this through multiple examples. And this is not only related to climate change or global warming, it's also related to how we are destroying ecosystems. For example, introducing like a new species altogether from the other end of the world to the lakes in Louisiana. All of these convoluted ways that humans think. At that time, maybe they thought it was right. And what are we doing currently in order to correct them? Now, again, my problem with the book is the relatability factor. It only talks about the US, it only talks about the global north. And I just felt like, a bit left out because the world does not revolve around the West. There are other countries as well. So, but of course, I'm hoping for the author to write more books for me to experience tidbits and more analysis from her experience. Okay, so the next 4 books in this particular list, and I have to say I loved all of them. Okay, never in my life have I loved like more than 2 books in a booktube price list. I mean, in this case I've like loved them no matter what, and it was very difficult for me to place like my top 4 in some order or the other, but let me start with it anyway. So book number 4 is Chasing Me to My Grave by Winfred Rembert, which is, let me tell you, it is an art memoir. And if you know me, I am absolutely a fan of art. And when I got into the book, so I suggest that you read not a Kindle version of the book, but instead you read some. Or you read it on the Kindle app, for example, like read it on a colored media, be it print or be it your phone or be it your Kindle app, wherever you're reading this book, because this book has pictures. And at first glance, because halfway through the book, I realized that these are not paintings, these are not like, impressionist paintings or something. These are actually works of carving on leather. Like these are leather artworks. So what the author would do is, so he has had a lot of life experiences. He was also in prison because of, because he protested against the Jim Crow laws and things like that. Took up art as a healing process, making art on leather and making these intricate paintings based on his real life. I didn't know about Vincent Rembert at all, unfortunately. And yeah, we are at a situation where I absolutely loved the book that was written by a lady called Emily. So I think the story was told to her and she helped him pen down the whole thing. That's how it worked. So it was like a memoir, biography, whatever you want to call it. But again, beautiful paintings in the book, heart-wrenching paintings, some of them are nostalgic paintings as well. And I really, if you're a lover of art, this is one of those books that you should read. My only complaint about the book, and the reason why it's at number 4, is because I just felt like the middle portion of the book, like it's a bit like slow. I did not like that. Like it should have had a constant pace throughout, but it's just that some parts of it were pretty slow and pretty detailed, and I kind of lost track of time reading the book in that case. So yeah, number 4, highly recommended for sure. So that being said, this gets me to my top 3, and my third book in this particular list is How the Word is Passed by Clint Smith. Let me tell you, this is a brilliant read, and this is like a total 5 from me. I actually finished this book within 24 hours, and it was like an 8 or 10 hour audiobook, and it's a bit long for me because I do take like a week to finish 8-10 hour audiobooks, but I absolutely loved it, dude. I absolutely loved it. Basically, Clint Smith, what he does is he goes to these various places in the US, and he tries to like bridge the gap between the right wing and the left wing, and at the same time telling you the story of all these revered people that we know, like Thomas Jefferson, for example, and how he was a slave owner. The way the author does it is brilliant, and that's what I loved about the book, and that's why I was hooked onto it. I do love like talking about history and politics, and this book kind of brings about a mixture of history and politics into the whole situation, and it kind of gives you a perspective on why the world is like it is right now. And it also felt like it kind of like, although the story was about the US, and it was again a pretty US centric book, it kind of also talks about the entire slave trade. Like although he tries to cover a lot of points of it, but he also actually goes to Sierra Leone to visit the jail there and the slave hub there, because it's pretty nice, and it's pretty well written. And I recommend this book, especially if you're in the US or if you're in the Western world. This is an eye-opening read about how nuanced our history is, or of how nuanced politics can be, and how people on the right wing and people on the left wing can attempt to be on the same stage. And that gets me to my book 2, and that is Empire of Pain by Patrick Radden Keefe. Now, I was 100% sure that this is going to be in my top 3 because Patrick Radden Keefe never fails to surprise me. The amount of research, the amount of investigation, the amount of reading that you need to write a book like Empire of Pain, or for that matter, to write a book like Say Nothing. I mean, these are kind of obscure topics. Which were like hidden under the rug for a very long time. And he tries to get these topics out in the open like a true investigative journalist. My only complaint with the book, because Empire of Pain is about the Sackler family and there's a lot of research and it talks about how they gave rise to this whole opioid crisis in the West. My only complaint is that the book can drag a bit somewhere in the middle with too much information, and you cannot like collect too much information at one point of time. So if you're planning to read this book in one sitting, no, it's impossible to do that. I mean, it's not possible to do it with any non-fiction book. And it talks about the history of the pharmaceutical company as well. So absolutely love it. Highly recommend it if you love investigative journalism. And this gets me to my number 1 book in the entire list, and that is Facing the Mountain by Daniel James Brown. Now, there are a few topics that, like I said, it's so you realize how varied the list is in the non-fiction finals and during the BookTube prize. And during this time, I absolutely loved it because I actually read like the top 4 books and I enjoyed it thoroughly. This book, what is it about? It is about the Japanese American heroes who actually gave their lives during a time when they were themselves being put into concentration camps by the American government. The book starts off with the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and then it ascends to the series of activities that were taken up by the American government against their Japanese citizens. So the idea was basically that the Issei are the Japanese Americans who actually moved to the US, and they could not be Japanese citizens, but they got a green card and they could stay. But the Nisei, that is their kids, they were born and brought up in the US and they never knew Japan as a country. So it's during those times that these guys were pushed into concentration camps. A lot of divisions were made between communities and things like that. And finally, some of them were also asked to serve during World War II. A story of these men, these brave men. It's a story of how, in the face of resistance, in the face of the enemy, young men like 18, 19-year-old kids actually stood up and decided to fight for what was right, basically. I think this book impacted me a lot, especially when it comes to stories from World War II or history in general. I like to read more about them, and that's how I also ended up reading They Called Us Enemy by George Takei. The point is that this book really impacted me a lot. I absolutely love the writing, and it actually reads like a thriller many times. A lot of war scenes described in the book really keep you at the edge of your seat. So this is a treasure trove. I love this book. This is my top book. Like, this is my best non-fiction of 2022. Those were my top 6 books. What do I recommend? I recommend all of them, even the 5th and 6th book in the list. But if you are like me, and if our reading tastes match, then I suggest you go for the top 4 and read everything in the top 4, honestly. Now, talking about the winners, of course, like I said, the winners were kind of very close to what I had stated, and these are the winners. So as you can see, my top 3 is the same, but just in a different order. But I did have How the Word Is Passed, The Empire of Pain, and also Facing the Mountain in my particular list. That's it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope to be regular in some sense. Of course, 100% regularity. Please don't expect that and like post videos here and there. But till then, thank you so much for watching. Bye.